Welcome to What's Good Miami. We are here for the next edition of Miami Minds with the James Beard Award-winning chef, Michael Schwartz, and my North Beach neighbor. It's incredible to have you, Michael. I've been an admirer of your work and have been honored enough to build a relationship with you over the last few years and to be the receiver of delicious cookies during COVID and some espresso and a lot of other really delicious stuff.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's good to have you, man. It's good to have you. Well, I thought there was nobody really I could have a more honest and learned conversation about Miami food and hospitality than I guess I would consider you the elder statesman here.
For many reasons.
For many reasons, but you're the elder statesman, and you are probably the precursor to what I think is a major word that is used throughout culture in millennial culture and Gen Z culture, which is genuine and authenticity. Being genuine and authentic.
Yeah, I thought that was an important word back in the early days before opening Michael's Genuine, and for me it was like, what are you gonna call your restaurant? And I was like, I don't know. Well, everyone was like, call it Michael's. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Michael. So we tried to come up with a word that would sort of, inform people about what our intentions were. And that word just resonated with me. And then certainly, I guess, resonated with public and, paired with what we actually did in the restaurant, which we tried to believe was genuine and authentic.
It's really unusual because I feel like in moments in time, everyone has in their career, if you're lucky enough, moments in time, right? And whatever happened and it continues to happen, but with that original Michael's Genuine at that moment in time, not to jump the gun here, but that was a real thing. Like I was not living here when you first opened that restaurant, and everyone in the culinary world knew about that restaurant and the word.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because, I had no idea, I think a lot of it is sort of the convergence of all the things at the same time and some luck, and being in the right place at the right time and then doing the work, and walking the walk. But, I remember when Frank Bruni from the New York Times came and he gave us a great review, and he included us in a roundup of the 10 best new restaurants around the country.
Amazing.
It was awesome. And it was like a 4-week countdown. And I think we landed at number 3. And it was amazing. And it really catapulted Michael's Genuine. But he ripped the name.
He did?
In the piece. He was like, as if, would it be disingenuous food? The use of it. And it was on T-shirts and free for pretense. And but it worked out, and I think it's important. It still is for us and our company and everything that we think about and do, whether it's, for community or charity or for our employees or, the product that we put, how we approach working with product is always about, is it genuine and is it authentic?
So when I was younger, I wanted to be a chef. And I did a culinary stage at the original Spago under Wolfgang Puck when I was like 17 years old on Sunset. It was an amazing experience. And then I went to work for Drew and Michael Bonadies at Tribeca Grill. And I remember like those days, and I guess maybe, I don't know if I call it analog versus digital restaurant days, but we were definitely taking reservations in a book.
Oh yeah.
Yes, with pencil, and there was a system. Like Drew had like some well-known system of what you need to circle and this and that, right?
That's lost now. It's open table or Reza, and it was computerized, but that was art.
So that's what I was going to bring up, because I remember even the smells of those times. And like, I remember getting off the subway, walking to Tribeca Grill, and you're being in New York and you're seeing the foods be delivered on the side of the street and the different, I remember learning the names of the different trucks that were coming from all the different companies. And it was almost like the opening scene of like Wall Street or something, where you saw the steam coming out of the floor and this thing. And I believe that your restaurant, Michael's Genuine, and like the hospitality that you provide is one of the few places that exists currently in Miami that I would say harkens to this kind of pre-digital hospitality, like a different version of a restaurant where it was, like I hate to like I remember the first time I tried molten chocolate cake at Vong. And
Oh,
yeah, and, like, totally, like, knocked my socks off. But there was a different art to restaurants then than there are now. Now it's, like, almost like a large corporate type of situation.
yeah.
There are exceptions. I think, like, a Boya Days is an exception. It's still small and intimate,
It's
but
interesting because I think operating a restaurant now is completely different than it used to be, and way more complicated. Thus, process and procedures and systems and all of those things are much more important, including profitability, because
yeah.
everything's more expensive and being compliant is much more difficult. So I think, the natural progression is that smarter people had to come in and start restaurants. They would kill somebody or lose money or, some bad things would happen. And so, but I agree with you. I love that analogy with analog and digital. And that's, that analog vibe is what got me interested as a kid in in the restaurants, and I was exposed to it as at an early age when I was, I don't know, 15. I went to work as a busboy in a very fancy northern Italian restaurant in Philly where I grew up, and
What was it called?
DeLulo's.
Delulu's.
And it was very cutting edge for the time, very Milan-esque, plush green carpet, chrome and mirrors, and they had like a glass enclosed pasta room.
Oh, wow.
So that old Italian ladies that didn't speak English were making, cappelletti and agnolotti, and everything was made fresh, and they were using cutting edge ingredients, which now seem to be very commonplace, like radicchio or
Yeah, I read you out. I remember the first time I had prosciutto. Yeah, I still, like, it was a religious experience.
and I was hooked, and like you said, the smells and sounds and energy that the restaurant provided hooked me at an early age. So, to your point about Michael's Genuine sort of representing that era, it's just because that's the era that I'm from.
Yeah, but it's not that you don't go there and say Michael's Genuine is a Asian fusion restaurant or a Korean steakhouse or whatever it is. Michael's Genuine is just a really good restaurant,
Yeah.
right? And so whether you're having, the potato chips with the onion dip, there's some liver dish I have at like one of the bar snacks. I think it's liver dish, right? Yeah, I love that. The chicken liver crostini or the tuna carpaccio, whatever it is.
Pretty much eat around the world.
Yeah, it's like it's
It gets labeled as fusion. That's true.
so you had restaurants like Gramercy Tavern and Union Square Cafe and Spago and like other restaurants like this and Alice Waters in San Francisco, all these restaurants that kind of represented a certain time period of hospitality where you were going to get a food that was a cut above by a chef who was present in the restaurant, and it wasn't it wasn't really theatrical in my opinion. It was more about the moment in that place. It was like the clubhouse in a way.
It was less fussy, less pretentious.
Yeah.
Look, I admired in those restaurants, all of those restaurants, like you mentioned, were North Stars for me. I either worked in them, staged in them, or studied them,
Yeah.
a lot. I too worked for Wolfgang Puck at Chinois, not at Spock, but spent plenty of time at the original Spock. And those restaurants inspire, And look, a lot of what we do at Michael's Genuine is driven by my early introduction to the restaurant, and maybe that's why it still feels sort of less corporate and more relaxed, I would say.
It feels personal.
That was important for me,
It feels personal.
and especially, so we just celebrated 18 years.
That's wild.
When we opened 18 years ago, we tried, like in the beginning, I couldn't afford Tatum cloth, so we had white butcher paper, crappy tables, and we tried all kinds of like sort of, different vibes. But I wanted to create a restaurant that people could be themselves. Music was playing. It wasn't a hush restaurant, but the food was important. Not the most important thing. It wasn't every time all about the food. It was about the experience and how what you heard and what you smelled or what you saw. And then the food had to be good too. Service had to be personable. We wanted people to convey their personalities. Sure, be able to answer questions, know how to sell wine, uh, and know hospitality, but to let their personality shine. And I mean, we've had some characters there over the years. Face tattoos, dyed hair, it doesn't matter. As long as you're passionate about hospitality and you're professional, then you're for us.
So why do you think so what year did it? 2007 or something?
That's a set.
2007, like, so that's, like, right before crash.
Yep.
That must have been pretty scary.
We had some traction. By the time the crash came, I feel like we did pretty good through that period because we were sort of comfort and our prices weren't gouging. And it was a place where you felt you wanted to see people and be comfort
Yeah.
for whatever reason. And so we sort of thrived over that period of time. It's pretty amazing. It was good timing. Yeah, it was like a thing. And so that market crash didn't really have a huge impact, and then Miami is Miami. And it's always Teflon. Goes through the same process that the rest of the country does, but somehow it just sort of floats above.
Yeah, yeah. I was saying that I was so happy last week when the tariff thing was going on that I lived in Miami and not New York. Because anywhere you were in New York, you would have had to deal with that. Miami, like, no one's actually really paying attention.
Yeah.
Like, ah, yeah, it'll work itself out.
Exactly.
So just to go back to the beginning here quickly, because we didn't do the, like, normal intro. What's your name? What do you do?
This is Michael Schwartz, and I'm a chef.
You're a chef. And how long have you lived in Miami?
31 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so can you give us, like, the little bit of the story? Like, hey, my biography. If you just the little one, like the real one.
I will. I'll give you the quick one. Uh, Moved here in 94.
Okay.
York.
That was a great time to move here.
Yep. It was South Beach was popular.
Yeah, 97 was Delano, so
It was all about the flash of Miami Beach and South Beach. And I saw it as an opportunity to, offer some more legitimate food and hospitality and not just be like a club strong,
yeah.
I call it. And so I moved here in 94, opened Nemo in 95.
Okay.
My ex-partner Miles, who still has
Prime 112. Okay.
and runs all those restaurants.
So that was south of 5th, Nemo?
Yeah, first the Collins.
Oh, that's
It's now Motec.
yeah, so it was Prime Fish after?
After, yeah, it was many things after Nemo. Nemo was the sort of the spot.
Yeah.
In the mid 90s. And, it opened in the Nemo Hotel. First kosher hotel in South Beach.
Oh, wow.
And it had great bones. And we opened there in 95 to great success. And I think that what we did sort of resonated, not unlike what I do on Michael Schwartz.
Okay.
More about substance and less about flash. But we captured all, Michelle Pommier had a modeling agency around the corner, like Miami was pop. And we had success and we opened some more restaurants together. We opened Big Pig and we opened the sushi bar and we
So you guys were involved in that together? I had no idea.
Yeah. And then we split in, I'm going to say 2002, 2003. Then he went on to open Prime and sort of solidify his
Legacy.
yeah, and his legacy. I in between that time and opening Michael's Genuine, sort of floundered around, took some weird jobs.
Okay.
I'd rather forget about. But in 2007, opened Michael's Genuine.
So how did that come about?
So for me, it was sort of a last ditch effort. I was going to open a restaurant and give it my best or leave town with my tail between my legs. I had kids, you had young kids.
Yeah.
And it was a Hail Mary. And
That's how the best work gets done.
I want exactly under pressure,
Right.
and I wanted to open a restaurant that, expressed my personality. And I found the design district was close in proximity to South Beach, but then had surrounding neighborhoods and easy to access off I-95.
By better rents too.
Or way better rent. And so I opened it, and
Was it Craig involved at that time?
Craig's not by Lambert.
Oh, he isn't. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the few buildings he doesn't. But Craig's been awesome and is super supportive. It still is over the years. And what the design district turned into is incredible. And I never, had any idea.
But you're inevitably like connected to it. Because if you're gonna even like, obviously I did my pre-interview research, even though I know you, and it's synonymous. Michael's Genuine, Design District, Michael's Genuine.
I think we put the design district on the map, and Craig obviously then took it to the next level.
Yeah.
When he partnered with LVMH, and then it exploded and it changed.
Was MC Kitchen already there or no?
So MC Kitchen, when I opened though, there was nothing there.
There was nothing.
Before I opened, there was a restaurant on 40th Street called Piccadilly. And it's across from where Big Face Coffee is now, and it's a spot that later became Pacific Time, and then the River Oyster Bar guy opened there, and now it's been empty. But there was nothing there. Senora Martinez, with Michelle, he opened on the corner where the Protect Philippe store is.
Yeah. That was Senora Martinez?
Yeah, that was Senora.
And she had a little place, right? Like a coffee place or something?
Yeah, I forget the name of it.
Yeah.
But there was like little stuff like that happen.
Right.
And I liked it. And I felt like it was accessible. But I'll tell you, when I opened, during the day there was activity. There's people shopping for designer showroom stuff. But at night it was a ghost town. And a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
To send the people out in groups to go to their car, and there was muggings.
Oh, wow.
Theft and all that stuff. But it worked out. And then after that, there was opportunity that presented itself. We opened Michael's Genuine in Grand Cayman. We opened Harry's Pizzeria on the street. We did a partnership with Royal Caribbean where we were on 6 of their cruise ships. So I spent way too much time on the cruise ship. Not my favorite thing, but a great partnership with them. Partnerships with SLS Hotels where we did roll out of a concept called Philia, which I don't think is even around anymore. And Cypress Room was another one that just reacting to opportunities.
Yeah.
And, built a brand. I didn't know anything about what a brand was, but, we wound up building a brand and capitalizing on some opportunities. We expanded the pizzerias, morphed it into Genuine Pizza, which was a failure. And
then Genuine Pizza and back to Harry's Pizza. So what was that all about?
Yeah, it was an opportunity to expand,
No, but Harry's your son, right?
So Harry is my son and my grandfather. So when we expanded the pizzeria thing, we opened a Coconut Grove, second Harry's location, and
which is still there.
Very successful. And at that time had great margins, and we were like, let's do more of those. And we thought it would be a good idea to leverage the Genuine name. So we morphed it to Genuine Pizza and did a little rollout, raised some money, a separate company. It was interesting and learned a lot.
And then you went back to Harry's Pizza.
Ultimately,
But you have a couple locations at Harry's Pizza still, too.
I think delivery service disrupted that segment. It's like adult pizza, grown-up pizza, a little more expensive.
Yeah.
Delivery, cuts into that, and the margins just shrunk.
Really?
For the years, yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
22%, and now you're lucky if it's in,
Because the delivery service partners take like 25, 30%, right?
They take, and then, cost of goods, cost of labor.
So let me ask you a question, because I sense your internal struggle with some of the world of restaurants and food, not at all in a negative way. I mean, like
Totally negative.
I don't mean it that way. I just sense a love-hate relationship.
Well, look, I've been in this business for 45 years, and it's changed, and it's difficult, and maybe it was always difficult, but to me, it seems more difficult now. And Miami's changed. And in a lot of ways for the better and a lot of ways for the worse, you know. And I, through the 30 years that I've been here, I've seen these, you know, changes, waves of change,
Yeah.
waves of people from around the country coming and opening restaurants, and an influx of people that then leave. And so these waves, but you know, by far, this is the biggest wave post COVID, but it's really just bigger, but it's the same, you know? And so what I mean by that is in the restaurant scene in general here, it's the same. There's just more. So there's more young chefs doing good work, and there's more tool bags that, you know, think they want to prove how to run a restaurant by it, right? And it's just the same as it was 30 years ago. You know, it's just there's more and it's saturated to the point where, you know, the pie didn't get much bigger.
Yeah. It did for a minute.
Did for a minute.
Like 23, right? Or 2023, 22?
22,
Yeah.
22 was a boom.
Yeah.
You know, if we copy and paste 22, all great. And for everybody. But the pie didn't get bigger, but the pieces, you know, there's more pieces. So, you know, I don't know how people come, you know, like I was an outsider. I was
Yeah.
a New Yorker that came, I'm Philly. I moved
Yeah.
to New York. I came to Miami and opened a restaurant. And I think that I did it right in that I reached out to the community. I tried to, you know, raise.
You feel Miami. People would say Michael is Miami. They don't say Michael's Philly, right?
But in the beginning, you could have criticized me for being cocky about what I know about food.
Yeah, of course. You wouldn't be a chef.
Exactly. There's a way, I think, to integrate into a community, and some people do and some people don't.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, I just don't understand how you come and put $20 million into a build out. First of all,
Which is crazy in general. I don't know. I mean, it's got to be like some Miami cocaine cowboys math.
blow up the pay scale, blow up the labor, ski
Yeah.
pool, and say, I'm going to teach, you know, and then 2 years later, they're plips.
Yeah.
So,
But and by the way, they're not stopping though.
no,
There's like there's got to be at least 10, $20 million restaurants in the pipeline.
I was going to say 6 more, but there probably are 10. There's more and more coming. And so I just don't know how sustainable that is, you know.
I don't think it is sustainable,
But, you know, like I said before,
but it hurts everyone else every time it gets done, right?
Never bursts. I just don't get it. But so, you know, I like, but I love it.
But couldn't that be like an incredible opportunity for someone like you?
In what way?
Well, if there's going to, as a businessman, more, right? You're going to see all this money's coming into all these restaurants. There's definitely going to be at least half of them fail, probably more. And then they need the name. They need Michael Schwartz,
Second generation.
right? They need someone who knows how to operate, who has a name.
Yeah.
The landlord can't sit on that.
Well, let's see how it plays out. You know? And for our company, post-COVID, we've been sitting on the sidelines. Thankfully, it gave us an opportunity to dial in our process of our operation, how we care for our employees, and how we give back to the community, and watched, you know, dozens and dozens of restaurants open, and not proportionately enough restaurants close. And so we'll see how it plays out. You know, I'm always down for opportunity, but it's interesting. It's an interesting.
So just to like formalize this though, I want to like give people an understanding of what's truly happening here. So you have inflation, right? Inflation brings up the cost of ingredients, right? Inflation brings up the cost of ingredients, but also then the cost of labor, because the people who work in your restaurant need to afford living in an inflationary
Buying groceries.
period, right? So they need more money. So it costs more money in labor. Labor is the most expensive part of the game, right?
You get an out-of-towner that comes and blows up the pay scale by paying a line cook $24 an hour.
Yeah.
So then you got to meet that.
Yeah.
Right?
Or else he's going to leave, and then you have to teach someone else, which is going to cost you more,
Turnover kills you.
right?
Yeah. So all those things.
And then the real estate becomes more expensive eventually, right? Because they want more money, because everything's more expensive for them.
That's right. So then what happens?
People go out of business. Yeah.
And if you're even a
And the margins are bad or are tough already
they were
in a fine dining restaurant,
always tough,
right?
and then people complain that you charge too much,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
And so I don't know where, like, I don't know what the end,
you don't know where it stops.
because prices aren't going to come down
Yeah.
and stabilize. Then as cost of living, is,
So people need to get used to a new normal.
I guess, look, the new normal is you order a freaking wrap from a delivery service and it's $24
Yeah.
if you're lucky.
Well, this was a funny thing someone told me. Obviously there's the general like dialogue about Pure Vita being expensive, right?
It's expensive.
Yeah, Pure Vita is an expensive cafe. Or at least I used to think it was expensive. Now, one day I'm super hungry and I'm driving home to my house and there's a Subway on the side and I had to stop. I really wanted a sandwich, whatever. It is what it is, right? So same order, turkey on whole wheat with honey mustard, banana peppers, pickles, lettuce, oil, vinegar, salt, pepper. I recommend it, and it's not a bad one. Okay, with the chips and a drink, and I go to check out. And I remember when I was in high school, I used to get the same exact order, right? And it was like $6, 5, $6. It was, and people complain that a Pure Vita wrap is, let's say, 19.95 or something. It was like 17.95 for a Subway sandwich.
Okay.
So I was like, that's wild.
So that's shame. I didn't mention any name during this interview, but there are places, Pura Vida, great. Like, they're killing it.
Yeah, they're doing amazing.
I just had a Pura Vida juice this morning because it was right next to my physical therapist, and it was $12.
Yeah, yeah.
Little pressed juice that was probably made 3 weeks ago somewhere. But so, like, for me, I've always been like, I I used to be known as the consumer crusader. I was Ralph Nader because I was always fighting to keep people aren't even gonna know who the fuck Ralph Nader.
Some people might.
But I was always fighting to keep prices down because I wanted to be the place that people went to all the time. And I look at some of the prices now that I'm charging, and I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
But it's not like our margins grow. We're just trying to maintain our margins so that we can make a living.
Yeah.
And everything's more expensive. So I don't know where it goes really. And I don't know how someone spends $20 million on a build out, even if they do $20 million a year. How do you pay that back?
I don't know.
Well, if you look at the margin, it's 10%. Okay, so that's going to take 10 years to pay that.
Yeah, yeah, which is not a good use of capital.
So I don't know. Maybe it's
I don't know, man. I don't know. I do have faith in always in the human condition. I think the one thing we have as humans is we always tend to figure it out. We always figure it out, but it's a real problem. It's a real issue because there's only so much the consumer can take. And like I remember you used to go out like a big night out, let's say with your, let's say your wife for dinner or something like that. If you like $120 a person was like that was a lot of money. And that was like you were eating good.
that's
Like it's a minimum 200 a person now. And it's wild. And like if you get, God forbid you should want a steak.
well, I mean,
A good steak.
I have kids that live in New York, one in New York, one in Chicago, and I subsidize their living, I guess, to an extent, but
Yeah.
they're making ends meet on wages that I just don't understand how they even do it. But
There's a will, there's a way.
yeah, you want to be in New York, you figure it out.
Yeah, I used to have an infatuation with New York. I never thought I would leave. I mean, I lived in New York for 38 years, but I don't feel the same way about New York anymore as I used to. I mean, it's still an amazing you could get anything you want anywhere, but like for a lifestyle perspective, I don't think it could even compare to what yeah, I'm an old man.
I mean, our priorities change. I still love New York.
Yeah.
Not
Do you go often?
I'm there 4, 5, 6 times a year.
Have you had any great meals there recently?
Always.
Anything worth noting?
I mean, for me, like, it's funny, like, Frenchette is one of my favorite restaurants. And also, have you been to Four Horsemen?
No, I've never heard of Four Horsemen. Frenchette, I've heard of.
Go to Four Horse.
Okay.
And it's a wine bar. There's no alcohol, cocktails.
Yeah.
but the feed is exceptional. And they do it right. It's small and you'll wait.
Where is it?
Williamsburg area, I think. Hard to get a reservation, small room, but just outstanding. But there's always new. And my daughter's totally dialed into the scenes. When I go out, there's always new places, but I had a list. I'll send it.
She's a food person?
She loves food.
Yeah. Amazing. I remember actually, so why'd you move to North Beach?
Love North Beach. And
I remember when you sold your house on Miami Beach, because I remember seeing the listing and a beautiful kitchen.
Kitchen was amazing.
Yeah.
We had a divorce and we sold our house. But it was my dream kitchen.
Oh yeah, it was a really beautiful kitchen.
An addition. So I had like a galley kitchen in that house. It was a 1950s house that was built by the former mayor of Miami Beach. And then Michelle Oka Donor lived there. You know who she is?
No.
She's an artist. In the Miami airport, the ocean
Yes.
seaweed floors.
Yes. Oh, cool.
The gray roof. But it was a galley kitchen, and we had this big screened-in floor room. And my friend, who's an architect and designer, is like, let's put the kitchen there. I was like, oh, yeah, great, let's do that. It turned out to be like an addition. All the structure, steel beams, all the plumbing, but it was amazing. It was about a 1,300 square foot kitchen.
It was a beautiful kitchen.
Wood burning.
I think it's sold before I ever had a chance to go look at it.
I always have lived in Miami Beach, almost the whole time, exclusively that I lived here, except for a few years post-divorce through that and over COVID. And I wanted to be back on the beach, and I found North Beach. I'd spent some time up there. The band shell's up there.
Yeah.
And I found a great place, and it turns out it's great. It's feels like a little beach community. And, there's a lot of development on the horizon, and Ocean Terrace looks like it's about done, and there'll be some development there. But right now, I love it, and I love being, on the beach.
I think it would be a perfect place for
You should open.
You should open a restaurant there. If you just had a little spot with really good food, I feel like that's the only thing missing from the neighborhood.
Spot out there.
What do you got?
Actually, if you've been there, the Rapper.
The rappers, the Lebanese. So I've seen them on social. Actually, Alex has been there.
You got it.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome. Go to the Rapper.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's good. I'm definitely gonna check it out.
Super solid.
Amazing. They're really passionate about it.
There's not a ton of.
Blosom's not bad.
It's fine.
Blosom's not bad. The guy George has 3 restaurants up there. He's taking the neighborhood.
Saison.
Yeah.
Burgers.
Burgers is into, so I don't go to any of those, but they're very popular. Yeah. But I heard Mise Non is opening up there.
I heard Roberta.
And Roberta's is opening up there. Have you ever been to Silver Lake Bistro? I heard they have a good burger. Yeah. There's something going on up there. I mean, I love it. I love being there.
Yeah. Same.
I really do.
Same. I like that there's growth there. I want to see more people, and not too many, but.
So you said before that some things changed for the better and some things changed for the worse.
Yeah.
What changed for the better?
Shit. There's more. What did change for the better?
What changed for the better? In Miami?
Come back.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Hey, listen, I'm still here. So, I love Miami. It's my home. I raise kids here. I have family, businesses. There's plenty of good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing place.
So for me, it's the resources and the fish, the product that we get.
So what do we get here that other people don't get? Because when I first moved here, I was in a way, I had probably deluded myself into thinking I was getting the bounty of California, which clearly we do not have.
Not even close. Not even close.
Yeah.
It's totally different. And it took me a long time to sort of accept that too.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's a peninsula, right? So there's always stuff coming from a limited area. Yeah. And it's tropical, subtropical. Mm-hmm. So as you know, the growing season's upside down. We're coming out of our peak growing season now. We just finished strawberries. tomatoes are going to end, and then we go into the summer where it's hot and buggy and it's supposed to be tropical fruits. Uh, but there's no big dairy here, so we're not in a lot of cheeses. We're in a subtropical climate, so we don't get things like artichokes and asparagus and crops like that. And then, sort of cattle and lamb and goat, not a ton. Northern Florida, there's a good amount of cattle that then gets shipped off to Nebraska or someplace to finish it on grade or what sell it. But the big win is the sea for me. And
Well, I think that would be considered obvious, right? No?
but people, look, and that's another thing that bugs the shit out. Like we're in some of the best seafood, I think, in what country, if not the world.
Yeah, when people are flying in Dover soles.
Right. And like tilefish, pompano, king mackerel, Spanish mackerel, grouper, snapper, stone crabs, golden crab. Like the list goes on. Oysters, clams, squid, octopus, shrimp.
So you have all that here.
You have all that here. We try to use as much of that. Look, I mean, I bring mussels in from Maine and other product from other parts, but mostly we try to focus on local, particularly Finnish because it's so alert there.
Amazing. So what's your morning routine?
Morning routine is usually I get up around 6, espresso, genuine Panther roast. So Panther makes I know you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I want to try it. But Panther, we've been partners with Panther for a long time. And over the years, I asked Joel from Panther to develop a special blend for us.
Yeah, I've had it. It's delicious.
Kind of roasted a little bit darker, which he didn't want to do.
He's not big on it. He likes the bitterness, I think, usually. Like
Floral kind
yeah. Yours is more Italian, it feels. Yeah.
So it's a double espresso, a walk around the park with the dog, and then a workout. And then I'm usually on the road by 9 to go to, the restaurants.
Breakfast?
Usually it's like yogurt with berries and seeds or something, or a smoothie or a protein thing.
How do you keep the weight off as a chef?
By eating less. So eating less and exercise it. And as you get older, it's both. And it's really mostly eating less. And,
You have to taste a lot, right? Less so now, right?
honestly, I'm not like in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I taste, and I love to eat. So keeping weight off or getting it off is harder as you get older and harder than my business for sure. But I've had ups and downs. I think in my 40s, I was pretty heavy and didn't feel good and was busy, being a chef and raising the family. And I hit 50 and I was like, this is not, goal.
It'd kill you, man.
And yeah, and so I'll be 61 next.
Being a chef is not an easy.
It's hard on your body. My body is just like broken.
Yeah. I was sad to see that the chef from New York who passed, James, I think. James, he was a good chef, man. And he was young. And he didn't look old. Like,
I don't know, man. The business takes its toll on you, I think, physically and mentally. So I think trying to, if you stay in shape physically, it helps your mental capacity, I think.
do you think there's like misconceptions about being a chef?
Oh, tons.
Like what?
Like today. I mean,
Well, I would think that people probably think, wow, that Michael he's living glamorous life, right?
never trust the skinny chef to say that I'm skinny, but misconceptions, sure, that we eat only the finest foods all the time, or that, it's very glamorous. And I mean, it's hard. It's a hard job. It's a hard business. And anyone that thinks they want to do it, that's not 100% sure or passionate about it, should do it. It'll break you. And for me, even, I think at some point you're neglecting something. If you're working 70, 80, 90 hours a week, everything else is suffering. So for me, it was family, my kids, my marriage for and my health. And so tried to figure it out and, try to stave off, old age and body ailments and shit breaking down, but it's about a balance, eating, exercise, and moving your body, try to stay young.
What is your best memory of being a chef? Like, what is your highest high?
I mean, winning the Beard Award, I think was the best for me. And it's like, so it was long ago. It was 15 years ago.
Why is it? Because your peers like recognizing you? What is it about it?
And I really think like even that prestige has changed.
Yeah.
I think the Beard went through some changes, and even Michelin, and I think recognition in general has shifted since social media became.
Well, truth has shifted.
Yep.
So it's hard to have recognition if you don't have truth. And like if with people that like we're in a crisis of truth.
Yeah.
So and for anyone to be the best, I could make someone the best as a marketer.
Yeah.
Just give me 6 months and a good social media account.
And it's like the best. So, but that was a proud moment for me, and I never tailored my career around winning awards, and I remember a good friend of mine was a food critic here in Miami. We raised our kids together. We're still friends. She's no longer a writer. Very smart and a dear friend. And I remember when we opened, and I got nominated, and she's like, "Yeah, but this isn't a beard award kind of place." And I've heard her wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think at that time when I opened, sort of that style of dining was trending. It was changing from, fine dining restaurants that won awards had to be a certain way
Yeah.
and couldn't have a interesting playlist or be boisterous and loud. And I think that is when it started to shift. So I think winning that award for me was a big highlight. That was a big sort of pinnacle, and probably went to my head to the point where I thought I could chill out. No, was a rude awakening when I figured out that I still got work.
That's the Michael Jordan lesson. Never be satisfied, man. Satisfaction is a disease.
It is bad.
It is, especially if you're like really good at something. It's like it's it.
Become complacent, and then you get bypassed by it.
So what's the low?
I mean, I don't like. There's so many ups and downs. It has to be, closing all the restaurants over COVID. That's what we met. We closed 10 restaurants and laid off 450 people. That was pretty low, but I think it was a different, I wouldn't say that was the low point because we had no control,
No, yeah.
It wasn't a result of failure. Closing restaurants that you have control over is definitely depressing. I've done that, many times, but lots of lows. I think for me, one of my favorite restaurants was the Cypress Room. And you weren't here that, but it was a special place. It's Jewel Box. It was in a design district. It was a tiny little restaurant. I think it's called Pepe's now.
Oh, yeah. It's a tough space. Because great restaurants,
It was a
tough space.
beautiful. I'll send you some images in that restaurant. It's like a throwback restaurant to old Miami, crystal chandeliers, Pecky cypress paneling, and animal heads, white tablecloth. It was a special place. Closing that was
That was tough. So, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say there's restaurant juju. That space seems to have some poor restaurant juju.
yeah. And I was gonna say,
Like maybe you should reopen that one.
yeah, exactly. No, I was gonna say, when you consider taking over a second,
Because Guy, amazing restaurant too. I like that restaurant.
consider taking over a second generation restaurant, you're gonna be dealing with the stigma.
Yeah,
And some restaurants are really cursed for whatever reason. I don't know.
yeah. But I think that one has something to do with the traffic in that area. It's just like Miami to me is a micro neighborhood place. Like one side of the street could be a different neighborhood than the other side of the street. It's wild. Like you don't open in the right like space. It's a weird thing here.
Taking on like the parking lot next to it,
Yeah, it's a good parking lot.
the where the overpass is. But you know that they they beautified that now. It doesn't look beautiful to when I was there. And people do want to park their fancy cars there. We used to have to walk people in the back door through the kitchen. We thought that was cool. I like that. You never.
You never know. So, in terms of as the elder statesman now of the Miami food scene, I would say Miami was definitely before you, and I don't want to overstate, but before you opened Michael's Genuine, Miami was definitely not known as a food place. So there were a few here and there, but definitely was kind of considered a more barren food town. I don't think, and I'm not going to knock like Cuban cuisine, but I don't necessarily consider Cuban cuisine like one of the great cuisines of the exactly. But like it was definitely not known as a place to come for fine dining or really high end food, right? Then you open, and then now things have definitely upped a level in terms of what you can get here. Because there was points where when I first moved here, and I'm only 10, 11 years here, where like I kind of miss pre-COVID being able to just walk in a restaurant any night I want, and like usually someone taking care of me, in a good way, and like, send me around to drinks and whatever. And to be honest, there was more like a one place a night type of thing. Like if you were gonna go out on Tuesday, you would go to this place because you knew there was if you wanted a little scene, you were gonna go there because people were gonna go there. But now you have a much more evolved scene. I mean, just the sushi alone, like there's at least 10, 15 omakases you can get here now. I don't think you could get an omakase here before COVID really, like maybe one or two. Um, so like what do you see happening now in the world of restaurants and hospitality here? Obviously beyond, just the stuff we discussed. Yeah, like what did you see as like as someone who loves food and hospitality, who sees what's going on here? Obviously, you have your own opinions on these like big mega restaurants, but no city can really like you don't become who you're gonna be based on the mega tourist restaurant. Like that's not, you know
Yeah, but in a way, it's just having it.
Yeah, but you have also in like Coconut Grove, like for instance, you have like the Felix and Luca, and there's some stuff going on over there. And then you have your Boya Days of the world and different stuff. There's stuff happening here.
Yeah, like I said in the beginning of the interview, there was always stuff. There's more stuff now. There's more of everything. So there's more earnest, hardworking young chefs that are doing cool shit.
Yeah. Vice versa has been getting a lot of attention recently now. But Sonny's is a thing.
In large part is overshadowed by these club restaurants. And Miami's a party town. And I'm not mad about it. I think it's great for Miami. What
I don't really go to the club restaurants, really.
Well, you're an exception. No, I mean, I don't either, but plenty of people do. What I would love to see more of is, is, restaurants or ideas around the cultural diversity that makes Miami what it is, right? And borrowing from the Caribbean or Haitian or Cuban or Latin and mixing that with the product that we have.
Sorry.
Salute. But
They rarely come in just one, so be ready. No, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
yeah. But where do I see it going? I don't know. Like, I think one thing that sticks out in my head right now is like that strip on Collins of all those hotels like the Delano and SOS and the Shelbourne and the Raleigh and
Short Cloud.
they're all dark.
Bulgari.
Getting ready to reload.
Yeah.
The Raleigh's going to turn into
It's gonna be a Rosewood. Rosewood. Shore Club's gonna be
prop.
no, the Shelbourne's a proper. They're opening soon. Shore Club's gonna be Auberge. Then Bulgari's opening next door.
So
Amman is opening.
crazy. I'm really interested in seeing how that
Cipriani.
like nuts it needs. Not only the volume of hotels that are loading, but the caliber of what they're putting in there. So I want to see how that shapes Miami Beach.
They're not getting any Michael Genuine restaurants over there? No Michael Schwartz restaurants yet?
No one's reached out yet, but this is the time.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think you might be getting a call. Yeah. I could see you getting a call.
The Raleigh that I really appreciated and enjoyed, and I love that hotel, and I hope that, I hope they do that.
I used to love the breakfast at the Raleigh.
And just the vibe, and that martini bar and the pool, and I just hope that they respect the history of that enough to not screw it up. I think Rosewoods does an amazing job, so I'm optimistic, as I am with Amman and Cipriani. So to me, that would mean that South Beach then becomes again a destination for locals, not just tourists. And I'd like to see that, because it seems like everything migrated over to the other side for many years, even really since I opened January.
So where do you like? What are the neighborhoods you like to spend time in now?
My home,
North Beach.
in my apartment. It's really true. I mean, if we had our choice, my lady and I would just be home, but we like to eat A, in our restaurants, and B, like to go see what's going on around town every once in a while. So
Have you tried John and Vinny's yet?
yeah.
I like John and Vinny's.
Yeah, we went there when they opened, and they're friends, and I like what they're doing. I'm not sure if they're staying there.
No? Yeah.
They call it a residence.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think they were hedging from the beginning, right? But I think they're doing well.
I just like the fact that that's like to me, it feels like an elevated neighborhood restaurant. It feels like a really, as a restaurant person, yeah, no, but as a restaurant person, you can like appreciate the engineering behind the concept.
Well, those guys, that's a real expression of who those guys are.
Yeah.
And if you ever got to know them or meet them,
I've met them a few times. Their food is good. I like their food, man.
their food is solid.
Yeah. And I just, what I always find interesting with their restaurants is like, I just think food in California in general is very good because it's so close to the source. The product is so, yeah.
They figured out how to reproduce it here in
They did some really good. Yeah. They kept right.
Saudi and Dubai, and so they have a formula that's working, but they're a transplant that I can appreciate.
Yeah. I appreciate them. So what is a hidden gem that in Miami that you think people should know about or not know about?
The rapper.
The rapper.
Yeah, I already gave you that one.
The rapper's your hidden gem?
I mean,
We're respecting the rapper. Like, I've driven by the rapper maybe 100 times. Alex told me it was good, but I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
Where do you shop? Where do you get your food? Yeah. Publix.
I mean, it's right there, sure, Costco.
Yeah, I like them all.
I mean, I'm just me.
You're just a regular guy, man.
Yeah, no, no secrets. I'm not a huge fan of Whole Foods.
Me neither. It's expensive. Trader Joe's I like.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, let's do the standard questions then.
Okay.
What do you love most about Miami?
The water, being on the beach, and really for me, the energy, the light, and the cultural diversity. Although sometimes it's annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like it.
But I think it makes Miami special.
Yeah. I mean, there's always action.
Yeah.
It's always something going on.
Yeah.
How do you share your creativity?
How do I share my creativity? I think through the restaurants, and I think through the food and the hospitality, and I think creativity is always evolving, and it shows itself in different ways.
You a lot of music in your life too, right?
All kinds of music, but I'm a huge jazz fan. Yeah. And but creativity, shows itself in different ways, and it could be through a dish or a beverage program or a point of view for a cookbook or yeah.
And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it would be find the balance, right? And I sort of hate that work-life balance term that really
No, this is really important to us.
affected, I think, people's determination and drive, which affected quality of labor. But I do think it's important to find a balance, prioritize your life, right? If getting ahead in a career or excelling at a craft or an art or a sport is important to you, then then make it a priority. But there's more to life than that one thing. And so I would encourage young people to just find that balance, uh, or even to know that it's there and to appreciate it, even if you can't give it enough attention.
Can we unfold this for 1 second? Because this is a really big thing because I hire people a lot. I have a very strong belief in what I call an integrated life, which is not easy to live. So, like, everything in my life revolves around my family, but that also means that when I'm working, I'm around so I'm trying to get everything working at the same time by living in the same place, not traveling too much. Like, I could work for Four Seasons or something, be an executive and go fly around, but then I would never see my kids, right? Or my wife, right? I believe it's working, but it's hard because on the same, if you what I've realized is on one side, you can live this integrated life. On the other side, you you can't be all there for any one thing if you're integrating your life. So like, am I ever fully with my kids or fully with my wife or fully with my work? They're probably not. So like it's it's a very difficult game to play.
But integrating with life was everything in my life revolved around my work, including my fam.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to spend time with me,
It come to
come to work.
yeah.
It was broken. It did work ultimately. But if I go back and say, well, what would I have done different? I don't know, because then maybe I would have still a successful marriage, but maybe wouldn't have achieved some of the things I did professionally. And what's the trade-off? So for me, I'm happy in a relationship. I have 3 great kids that seem well-adjusted and intelligent and creative and awesome. Uh, and I have a business that's pretty good, right? So in the end, it worked out, but the road was never,
Easy. But is it ever easy?
I don't know. No,
No.
maybe.
I think the secret or one of the secrets is there's a very interesting Ferran Adria quote where he talks about like waking up and taking on challenges every day and being happy and knowing that like that's what life is. It's the struggle to overcome a challenge. And there's always challenges in front of you because even if you're playing backgammon on the beach, you're still doing something to activate your mind. So there's always something that's part of the challenge. So how do you define your success?
Pass.
Pass?
Pass that question. I don't like. There's all different ways to define it, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Waking up in the morning and being rated.
Okay. And if you could collaborate with any artist, entrepreneur, or creative, who would it be and why?
I saw that question. I was like, I hate those questions.
Good.
They're great.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to lead you in a direction.
As long as you didn't ask me what my favorite anything was.
No, if you could collaborate with someone, who would it be?
John Coltrane.
Okay. Why?
I mean, I would just like to get into that guy's brain a little bit, right? Yeah, he was genius, brilliant, and I love his music, and even the crazy far out show. To me, there was something happening in there.
Do you think you cook with like a jazz type of like improv type of?
A lot of people say that, right? Or not about me, but in general, right? Like I don't know if you meant with Charlie Trotter. Or,
Yeah, yeah. I just watched the documentary.
yeah, Becoming Troy was.
Yeah.
Troy was crazy. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I cook. I mean, I play jazz while I cook,
Yeah.
and I love it. And but yeah, it would be him, but just understand his process a little bit, right? Yeah,
So you ever see the movie Big Night?
yeah.
Love that movie.
Same.
Yeah. At the end of the movie, the guys are in the kitchen alone, they're making the eggs, and I think it's actually Mark Anthony in the thing. Yeah. He's the busboy in the movie. So if you were sitting in the kitchen alone at the end of service, what would you cook for yourself? You had to eat.
That depends on how service went, right? Um, and then older, wiser me would be like, "Don't eat. It's after done." I need to like, really depends. For me, it's like what's happening right then, what product are we working with, what am I excited about? But usually I lean towards like if I'm like anxious about something or stressed, then stress eating is like carby pasta. If I'm in a good state, it's like grilled fish and salad and mashed.
Yeah, I'm in the same place.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But I would say like after any service, right? You're pretty amped up, and there's definitely some tension release going on there.
It's pasta.
Pasta's good.
What is your go-to pasta
I mean, the simple things, and again, it's really about like what ingredients
or available?
are abundant at that time. But simple like cacio e pepe.
I was gonna say cacio e pepe.
Yeah, and I love black pepper. I totally sweat.
Okay. All right, we're almost at the end here. What do you believe?
Shit, that was a good one. I skipped right over that when I saw it. I'm like, what? Is I gonna ask that?
To me, what do you believe is like you know, there's certain things you come back to again and again and again, things you like kind of felt before people started telling you what to do.
I believe you should listen to your first initial reaction to something.
Instinct.
You know, explore. Usually it takes you in a big circle, right? Uh, Test it. But then usually it comes back to that first, like, trust your intuition.
I like that. What's your happy place?
Usually somewhere on the beach or in the water or in the kitchen. And for me, like if all I had to do was cook, that'd be my happy place.
North Beach. Michael's back in the kitchen.
No, I have a great kitchen in my apartment and cooking with my woman there, looking at the ocean. That's
Amazing.
yeah.
You have a favorite quote?
I don't, there's a lot of quotes. But if you ask people that work for me, they would say, his favorite quote is, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I would always go around and just ask people, and I would judge how they feel about their job or me as a boss or working in that environment by the reaction to that question.
Do you know what you're doing?
Yeah. And, but it's funny because I always ask myself if I know what I'm doing. So I would say it's my favorite quote because that's just but it is my favorite question to ask people while they're working.
Is your kitchen like a kind place or a militant place?
It's a kind place. And it always, I think it always leaned towards that. Look, I think the world has changed, and some of the shit that I dealt with as a young cook just doesn't fry, getting berated and yelled at and embarrassed. And so I never tried to run my kitchens like that. But now more than ever, each can't. I don't think it's effective. Look, I think everyone reacts differently to different management styles. Some people need to be pushed harder. Some people need to be coaxed and sort of what's the word I'm looking for? But we're you know, Sunil introduced this nonviolent communication book into our company, and it really is sort of the driving mantra behind how we communicate with people, and it's been really effective, I think, in our businesses, but also in your personal life.
Yeah.
So yeah, nonviolent communication is important, and we make every manager read it and practice it. Yeah. And it's effective, you know. But I sometimes forget about. No, no, and have never been a street.
So what do you wish for Miami?
What do I wish for my happy? I mean, it's a good one.
Like, where do you want us to go in the future? What would make you feel like this is a more complete place?
It's not going to listen.
Okay, but it would be nice for the world to hear it.
Yeah, I just think more authenticity,
More genuine.
less plastic surgery, less,
Michael wants Miami to be more genuine.
ask it too much. I think it is.
So that's what you believe. You believe in being genuine.
I think that I live my life that way, but some people might argue that that's not always the case.
One dish to close it out.
Like my death row meal.
I don't know if it's your death row meal. If you could have one dish, could be any dish anywhere in the world, where is it? See, or it could be a meal or a dish. But
Yeah, there's a bunch of favorite things.
feel free to give us more than one if you'd like, because we're gonna enjoy it either way.
There's a
Come on, this is a good one. The last one.
First of all, the death row meal would be a big, juicy burger, right? With a really good, like aged cheddar, thrice cooked fries, and a glass of milk. That's the death. Some of the greatest bites that I've had. We were in Thailand a couple years ago, and they do like that spicy beef salad with like the toasted rice. It's like weeping tiger or something.
Last meal. You know, have you ever been to Il Latini in Florence? It's in Florence. There's a restaurant called Il Latini. It's definitely got to be at least like 100, 150 years old. But it's not a complicated meal. It's all like it's Tuscan food. So you start with a ribollita, pomodoro. Then you have a few pastas. Then like a what's the Florentine steak Florentine, great tiramisu, like amazing prosciutto, the liver on like almost like deep fried crostini. Too long ago, probably like 15 years ago. I should go back.
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very, very good. And down the street, there's a steak restaurant down the street called Sostanza, which also they're like cooking the steak Florentine, but like on an open flame. It's just honestly everything there is like incredible. Also, honestly, I love eating California and in Napa too. Like, I like being close to the ingredient.
One of my favorite places in San Francisco, Zuni Cafe.
It's very famous, Zuni Cafe.
Chicken,
Yeah,
oysters, go for lunch. Italy or France?
I'm definitely an Italy person. I'm half Sicilian.
Red or white?
Red, definitely, definitely. Although I haven't been drinking as much in recent memory, to be honest with you. But like if I for it. Yeah, I think people like have realized that like it's just not gonna take you to the promised land. And I love red wine and I love a dirty martini, but like and I love a margarita. I love all the drinks. But I definitely my body doesn't handle it the way it used to.
Especially at recovering, it's a little hard.
Yeah, much harder. Especially if you're not like really like in serious exercise mode all the time. If you're exercising 5, 6 days a week, your body can take it in and like probably go with it. But if I'm not really, if I'm like working it a lot and not exercising enough, the alcohol will not be tolerated. Well, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad I think you did great. I think you did great. The most genuine man in Miami. Oh, yeah. Make Miami genuine again. I like it. You should probably make Miami. Nah, I love you, Miami. Thank you so much, Michael. You're the man. Appreciate it. See you soon.